So, in my family, when it comes to the power, or I guess the economic strength of it, it mostly came from my father. My father was the major breadwinner, if you want to put it like that. So, in that sense, his word was inevitably law. So, if he was firm on something, it was more than likely going to happen. It doesn't mean like he was like a dictator or anything like that. Again, it was spread out. Everyone had an opinion. But again, if he was set on something, that was going to get done. If he said the house needed to be clean, it was going to get done, right? So from there, the power would disseminate a bit into my stepmom. My stepmom would have the next highest, though again, she was right up there. It's just in the end, because he had more economic influence, I suppose, if we're putting it like that, his word was the final word because he would pay for whatever the result was. So it would go her next, and a lot of the time she was actually the one that would disseminate a lot of the stuff down to the rest of us because my father was at work, and while she was working, he worked more. So when it came down to that, it would then fall to me. I was normally considered the next because I am the eldest brother that lived with us. So from that command, you could see that it would then disseminate to my stepbrother and then my youngest brother. So in our family, age was a heavily important factor. The older you were, normally the more prevalent your responsibilities are, the more power, the more weight you could throw around. So my younger brother kind of got the short end of the stick and had to always listen. Of course, he wasn't pleased with that, but again, that was the result. Now, in our family, though, when you became truly independent, was mostly dependent on just when you moved out. Because some of us stayed longer than others or things like that. There was no like an age like my dad would kick you out. So it became one of those things that if you were there longer, you weren't necessarily independent. It was dependent on, you know, again, when did you decide to leave the house? So because of that, you know, independence is maybe a little more vague for my family than others. But even with that, my dad would always be the kind that would check in, so you would still be connected to the family. You could never fully become independent, as he just wouldn't allow it. He would always contact you and get help. And the thing to note there is when power was, I guess, distributed to the family, again, my dad's word was mostly final under most conditions, unless, again, you were sick or whatnot. And this led to a lot of funny situations, as my father was one to always randomly help people. If they called him, he would help, which also, because of that, would fall down the chain, and we would have to go help. I remember there was one time when one of my father's friends actually had a house fire in his garage. My dad went up there, and he tore down the roof with them and brought in the giant truckloads, and we went with him because, again, that's how the thing went down. Now, in response to this, you know, what we got from it, it wasn't like he was just a dictator. As again, he would provide all the food, the housing, any extra income, you know, things like that, you know, movies, things like that. He would distribute that down in response to that. And of course, one of the main resources of a gift or something like that, especially like when we helped the house, the man rebuild his garage, was he would take us to eat. That was a great way, because we all like to go out to eat when we could. So a great reward for things was to go to eat, or even if you couldn't do that, to just stop by like a Dairy Queen to get food. So it was a reward system or a gift in response to our assistance. So, but because of that, again, since he provided mostly for that family, it was more of an obligation, right? Similar to how, you know, the societies are set up in these kinship societies. We owed him because he brought us in food, wealth, and shelter. So in response, again, like things like mowing the lawn, or again, helping him whenever we went to help somebody, was almost an obligation or a requirement to do. So that was just one of the great things, I suppose, one of our kinship dissolving matters. Now, when it came to things like sexuality or marriage, we were very open. It was never, my father never implemented any rules against, for, or, you know, anything with that. So it was mostly just an open term thing. So because of that, and with many things in our family, it was actually very open. There was only very few rules that my father set down that you had to listen to. Again, one being you had to help clean the house and keep everything running. And two, if you asked for help, you had to help them. So that was how my family structure ended up breaking down. And that would be like how the economic situation with my family